It always begins the same way. She looks at you, not for who you are, but for who she believes you could become. You can feel it in her gaze, can't you? That flicker of hope. Or maybe it's hunger. You think you're being seen, but you're not. You're being evaluated, measured, scanned like an empty canvas she's eager to turn into her masterpiece. But that masterpiece isn't you. It never was. And Carl Jung warned us about this, not with the comforting tone of a motivational speaker, but with the sharp precision of a man who spent his life staring into the human soul's abyss. Jung dedicated his entire career to mapping what he called the unconscious, the hidden world inside every mind, operating quietly beneath awareness. And in that darkness, he found something unsettling about women. He discovered that they don't just fall in love with men. They fall in love with the idea of men, with the fantasy, the projection. And here is the frightening part. Most of them don't even know they were doing it. You might think she's choosing you, but in truth, she is choosing the version of you she built in her imagination, a psychological puppet playing a role in her private movie. And when you stop fitting the script, she doesn't rewrite the story. She replaces the actor. Jung called this projection the Animus, the inner masculine image that lives within every woman. When that animus is immature or unbalanced, it becomes a tyrant. It is the unseen force that drives women to chase danger and reject goodness, to argue without logic, dominate without wisdom, and moralize without accountability. Jung didn't sugarcoat it. He described it as a kind of spiritual possession, a state where a woman becomes unaware that she is no longer acting from her true self, but from the shadow of her inner masculine fantasy. And men? You fall for it because no one ever taught you to recognize it. You confuse being desired with being understood. You mistake being chosen with being truly known. You believe her when she says, "You're different," when in reality, you're just the latest face cast in a role she's been rehearsing since childhood. And when the illusion collapses, when the mask slips, you're left confused, betrayed, humiliated, wondering what you did wrong. But you didn't do anything wrong. You simply stopped being convincing in someone else's play. Jung warned that the only way out of this psychological theater is through individuation, the lifelong process of becoming whole within yourself. And here's the painful truth. Most men never begin that journey. You've been conditioned to chase approval, to seek validation, to let women define your worth. And as long as you do, you'll keep playing the same role again and again, until the audience gets bored and replaces you. Individuation isn't glamorous. It's brutal. It forces you to face everything you've buried, the weakness, the fear, the pain. It demands that you stop blaming women for not seeing you and start seeing yourself. Because here's what Jung understood that most men never will. You don't become a man by being chosen. You become one by choosing yourself. You don't earn worth through her affection. You earn it by standing alone, awake, accountable, alive. A man who has faced his own unconscious cannot be seduced by projection. He is no longer a puppet in someone else's fantasy. He becomes the author of his own reality. Jung believed the greatest tragedy of modern men isn't that they were rejected. It is that they willing to reshape themselves into whatever they think will be accepted. You call it compromise. You call it love. Jung called it something else. Self-betrayal. He warned that men who neglect their own inner growth become slaves to the feminine projection, bending like wet clay into the forms desired by women who don't even know what they truly want. You stop being men and start being masks, smiling, nodding, performing, until one day you forget who you were before the mask. And women? They feel it, far more deeply than you imagine. The very traits you think will make her love you, obedience, predictability, availability, are the same traits that make her lose attraction. Why? Because the feminine instinct, Jung said, is not drawn to comfort. It's drawn to mystery, to risk, to the man she cannot fully define or control. The moment you make yourself completely known, without boundaries, without a backbone, you don't become more lovable. You become invisible, replaceable. And yet here's the paradox. Most men would rather be fake than be alone. You'd rather lose yourself than lose her. You'd rather play a role than face silence without applause. But Jung taught that until a man embraces solitude, he will never be free. He wrote that individuation demands a death before death, letting the false versions of yourself burn so that something real can finally rise. And here's the part no one says out loud. Individuation is lonely, painfully, terrifyingly lonely. Because once you walk that path, you begin to see things you can't unsee. You notice the masks, the lies, the games people play to avoid truth. And when you speak about it, they mock you. They call you cold, arrogant, distant. They tell you you're the problem. But you're not the problem. You're the mirror. And people hate the mirror when it shows them something they don't want to face. Jung knew this too. He spent years studying patients terrified of confronting their own shadows, the dark, rejected parts of themselves they refused to acknowledge. And he warned that women, especially in societies that idealize them, are often rewarded for avoiding that confrontation. They're told they are pure, intuitive, complete, just as they are. But Jung disagreed. He said the greatest danger to women is their unexamined animus, that inner masculine voice speaking with false authority and moral certainty. If a woman fails to confront and integrate this force, she becomes ruled by it, projecting it onto every man she meets, blaming them for the battle she refuses to fight within herself. And here you are, thinking you'll be the exception, that your love, your loyalty, your performance will make her finally see you. But that's not how projection works. Projection is a thief. It steals reality and replaces it with illusion. And until both men and women wake up from that illusion, they'll keep repeating the same tragedy over and over, each blaming the other, never realizing they're both dancing with shadows. And here lies the cruelest irony of all. The woman who once saw you as her hero will one day see you as her enemy. Not because you changed, but because you failed to fulfill the fantasy she built. You didn't betray her. You simply disappointed the image she invented in her unconscious mind. You were never that man to begin with, and that's why she resents you, not for your flaws, but for failing to live up to the myth she never told you she believed. Jung once said, "People will do anything, no matter how absurd, to avoid facing their own souls." And nowhere is that more true than in love. Men and women don't enter relationships as whole beings. They enter as walking projections, carrying old wounds, unmet needs, and hidden fears into each other's arms. You call it love. Jung called it possession. And like a man under a spell, you keep stepping into the same trap, believing this time it'll be different. But it never is. Not until you ask the hardest question of all. What if I'm the one responsible for this pattern? You want to call them manipulative, deceptive, shallow. But Jung would look you straight in the eye and ask, why did you let yourself be chosen by that woman in the first place? Because here is the truth. The man who refuses to confront his own anima, his inner feminine world, is destined to become a slave to hers. You are not a victim. You are a volunteer. You chose to play the fool. You chose to become an actor in her private myth. Because facing your own emptiness, your own lack of wholeness, felt more terrifying than living inside someone else's fantasy. And this is where most of you will stop listening, because this is where comfort ends and responsibility begins. Jung never offered easy solutions. He didn't hand out 3 steps to alpha male greatness. He gave you the brutal, lifelong task of self-confrontation, of sitting alone in the silence of your own mind until the illusions start to break apart, until that inner voice whispering, "You're nothing without her," finally begins to die. And make no mistake, that voice will fight for its life. It will tell you that you need her, that you're incomplete without her, that no man can live without feminine validation. But Jung and S. work whispers something far more dangerous. It says that the man who can stand alone, without approval, without applause, without being needed, is the man who is finally free. Free from projection, free from performance, free from the tyranny of living as someone else's idea of a man. And when you reach that place, you don't become cold or distant. You become real. You become grounded, rooted, fully alive in your own skin. And paradoxically, that's when women become most drawn to you. Not because you need them, but because you don't. And you'll smile, not from arrogance, but from understanding. You'll finally see that she, too, has her own journey to walk, that she must face her own animus, her own illusions. And you cannot do that work for her. You can't save her from herself. You can only do what Jung did. Walk your path so fearlessly that you become a living mirror, reflecting truth to anyone brave enough to look. Most will turn away, but a few, a rare few, will thank you for it. And that, my friend, is the difference between being loved for a role and being respected for the man you've become. And when that moment comes, when you finally realize you no longer need to perform, something strange happens. You'll notice how uncomfortable people become around you. They'll sense it, even if they can't name it. Your presence will unsettle them, because you no longer fit into the neat little boxes they use to feel safe. Jung warned that the individuated man is not welcomed by society. He is feared, misunderstood, labeled as distant or arrogant. But the truth is far more threatening. You've simply become untouchable, unbuyable, unmanipulable, because now you see through the game. And here's where it gets ironic. The very people who once begged for your attention, your validation, your approval, will begin to resent you for no longer needing theirs. Women, especially those still possessed by the fantasy of the perfect man, will accuse you of being emotionally unavailable, too analytical, too distant, too cold. But what they really mean is that they can no longer control you. You've stepped off the stage. You've stopped reading from their script. And without that script, they no longer know what to do with you, because you've stopped being a character and started being a man. Jung once joked that the gods have become diseases. What ancient cultures called divine possession, modern psychology now calls neurosis. And make no mistake, men addicted to validation are the most spiritually sick of all. You think you're being romantic when you say, "I'd do anything for her," or "she's my everything." But Jung would shake his head and tell you, what you call love is often just the refusal to carry your own soul. It is easier to project it onto a woman, to make her the carrier of your hope, your meaning, your purpose. Because if she carries it, you don't have to. But here's the brutal twist. When she realizes she was never meant to carry your soul, she will drop it. She must. Because no woman, no matter how loving, can hold the weight of a man who refuses to hold himself. And when she drops it, you'll feel betrayed. But you shouldn't. You should thank her. Because in that moment, when the illusion finally collapses, you'll stand face to face with the truth. The work of becoming a man was never hers to do. It was always yours. And in that raw, humbling moment, you have two choices. You can blame her. You can grow bitter. You can join the chorus of angry men who mock, resent, and swear off women, cowards too afraid to face their own emptiness. Or you can do what Jung would demand of you. You can turn inward. You can begin the lonely, terrifying, liberating work of individuating, of becoming whole without needing someone else to complete you. Because the truth is, the woman you are searching for out there is a reflection of the part of yourself you've abandoned. Until you face that part, Every relationship will be a performance. Every connection a transaction. Every love a lie. But when you do face it, when you integrate your own anima, your own inner feminine, something changes. You no longer chase women. You no longer manipulate or perform for them. You stand still, solid, centered, whole, and from that stillness, something miraculous happens. You stop attracting women who want the character. You begin attracting women who want the truth. And you'll know her when she appears, because she won't demand that you perform. She won't try to rewrite your story. She won't fall in love with the fantasy of you. She'll stand before you, raw, real, unguarded, not as a goddess seeking worship, but as a human being walking her own path beside yours. No masks, no projections, no games. And when you meet her, the real her, you'll know the difference immediately. She won't overwhelm you with declarations. She won't call you her missing piece. She won't seduce you with the promise of completion. Because she isn't looking to be completed. She isn't looking to be saved. She's done the work. She's met her own shadow. She's faced her own animus. She's burned through her illusions. And that's why she won't need you to perform. She won't need you to carry her soul. She'll stand there, whole in herself, looking you in the eye, not as a man she wants to mold, but as a man she's finally ready to meet. And in that meeting, there is no desperation, no clinging, no performance, only truth. And that truth, Jung said, is the rarest and most dangerous kind of love. The kind that demands nothing but offers everything. Because it isn't born of need. It's born of freedom. Freedom to choose. Freedom to walk away. Freedom to stand together. Without illusions. Without masks. Without fear. But let me warn you, most of you will never experience this, because most of you will quit before you get there. You'll settle for the performance. You'll settle for the fantasy. You'll settle for the fleeting thrill of being seen as someone you're not, because facing who you truly are still feels unbearable. But if you have the courage, the brutal gut-wrenching courage, to keep walking, to keep standing alone, to strip away every false layer you've built to earn approval, you will eventually find yourself standing at the edge of something terrifyingly beautiful. You will find yourself, and when you do, women will no longer define your identity. They'll no longer be the mirror you use to feel like a man. They'll become something else entirely. Partners, not prizes. Mirrors, not mothers. Allies, not saviors. And you'll love them, not because you need them, but because you choose to. From strength, from wholeness, from the place that knows, without apology, who you are. Carl Jung didn't leave you a map to follow. He left you a warning that every man who refuses to confront himself becomes a slave to the projections of others, especially the projections of women. But he also left you a challenge: to walk the path of individuation, to stop blaming women for the roles you volunteered to play, to stop seeking wholeness in someone else's eyes, to stop waiting to be chosen. Because the man who chooses himself fully, unapologetically, relentlessly, is the man who can never again be controlled by fantasy. He cannot be seduced by performance. He cannot be reduced to a character in someone else's script. He becomes the author of his own life, and if you've made it this far, if you've felt this message resonate deep inside, don't just scroll away. Don't let this be another thing you consume and forget. Take a moment right now, like this video, share it with another man who needs to hear the truth, and subscribe for more. Your support is not just for us, it is for the next man still trapped in illusion, waiting to wake up. Help us spread this message. Help us wake the world, one man at a time. And if you're ready to take this journey deeper, check the link in the description and join the movement, because the time to wake up is now.